Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, everyone. I am Brandon Chadwick, and today we will be getting into smear campaigns, what they actually are, why abusive people start to use them, even before you walk out the door. So, when they happen in the relationship and when the relationship is over, what they're designed to do and what you can do to respond to these things. And sometimes things are a non response, and it's more about just taking care of yourself in these times. But before we get to this episode, if you want to be a guest on our Survivor Story episodes, go over to narcissistapocalypse.com, click on the guest form button, fill it out, and press the submit button, and we will take it from there. We also have a support group over at our website at narcissistapocalypse.com, and we have Zoom meetings every Wednesday night, Thursday afternoons, and Saturday nights. Plus, we have forum boards for you to post on to get the validation that you need from survivors just like you. And we also have a newsletter that you can sign up to at our website. And in our newsletter, we have a lot of different things, but one of the things you'll consistently get every single week is a free workbook to this week's Survivor Story episode. And all of this is at narcissistapocalypse.com. And now we will get into smear campaigns. And a lot of survivors, a lot of victims are really just trying to survive. There's tension going on in the household, and you're walking on eggshells, and there's gaslighting going on, a lot of volatility going on, instability. And in some cases, the abuser is already building a story about you to the outside world, a story that you are the unstable one, the mean one, the abusive one, the one who is mentally unwell, the one that is impossible to live with, and the person that is causing all the problems. And pretty much for the most part, you have no idea that any of this is actually going on. So a smear campaign isn't always starting after you leave. A lot of the time it's starting during the relationship, while you're still there, while you're still hoping and still protecting your abuser from the public. You're kind of isolated in that way. You might be like not telling anyone what's actually going on all the time while they're creating a completely different story about you. And a lot of people think that a smear campaign is just a revenge thing after the fact, but really it's just part of the abuse itself. It's part of the coercive control. It's part of the isolation. It's narrative management, and it's just about shaping the world around you. So by the time you're going to finally speak up about what is going on, there's an audience that's already been primed out there to doubt you. It's a strategy. It's calculated. It's a sustained pattern of lies or distortions or half-truths or selective storytelling. And everything here is designed to damage you or plant narratives. And it's all aimed at controlling how other people see you before you even get the chance to speak for yourself. The goal here is to frame the narrative, to frame what is going on, and to control that. And they want to be able to decide in advance how your truth could land on people. A lot of these accusations are projections. They're the ones that are controlling, so they call you controlling. They're the one who's lying, so they call you a liar. So part of the smear campaign isn't just the lie. It's in what the lie is trying to take from you, which is your credibility, your support system, your relationships, access to the outside world, access to being believed, and that's a big amount of damage that can be caused. So why does it start before you leave? And when it comes to this, there are a couple of things. First and foremost is they're getting ahead of the story. And if they sense that you might be pulling away, or they get a sense of you're getting kind of clearer about what's actually happening, or caught them in something, they need to protect themselves. So they're going to get ahead of you on the story. So they might start telling people you're really emotional lately. They twist everything, that you're unstable, that you're not doing well, that you might have some other issues going on. They might say all of these things out of like concern, Maybe that you might not even treat the kids very well. They're concerned about the kids. They sound like someone who's confiding in friends. And what's actually happening is groundwork is being laid. They're planting seeds. So when they finally do go to someone for support, that person already has a story in their head. And this is when a lot of this damage can happen, because the smear campaign doesn't just distort the present, it distorts future access to help. And we've also heard other instances I forget which episode it was, but someone who was isolated in a new town, they really didn't get out much. And when they did get out, like that main strip of the town, a community-oriented part of the town, they noticed that people were acting strange to them because the abuser already got to them. And so when they see her, they don't really engage with her that much. And she knows something is off and knows something must have been said. But now in this isolated area that they're in, all of the people that she can communicate with, this abuser has already planted the seeds in them that she's been talking bad about them, which wasn't true. So in this instance, this person gets further isolated and isn't able to reach out for help. And you can see that this can also be done when you have mutual friends and things like that as well. So people who used to be really warm to you might be cold, and some mutual friends might give you weird responses when you reach out because this person has already poisoned the well. Sometimes they'll try to go to one of your family members, but for the most part, you can see them go to their own family. The abuser's family might have been nice to you before, and now they might start really being chilly toward you, acting a little bit more distant, or choosing their words really carefully around you. You might stop getting invited to things. And you just notice that a lot of these people and the mutual friends and the family stuff, that the room might shift a little when you walk into it. The energy might not be the same, and you can't really put a finger on it, but you know that something is going on. And because you don't know what has been said, you start trying to figure out what you did wrong. You start replaying interactions. You wonder if you said something offensive, if you came across badly, if you're imagining it. You might even ask your partner about it, and they'll either deny anything is going on, or they'll use that opportunity there to reinforce the narrative. Well, people have noticed you've been really stressed lately, or I think you're just picking up on the tension that you're creating yourself. So now you feel confused. You might feel guilty a little bit, or thinking something's wrong with me. And in some ways, you might become more dependent on the person who's actually behind the whole entire thing. And this is an isolation mechanism working right here, and it's working as intended. The abuser here is cutting off your support system, and they're cutting you off from people without ever being told why. So you can't even defend yourself. You don't really know what is going on. You don't know what the story is out there. You just know that something feels wrong, and you can't quite reach people the way you used to. And this also means that by the time things get really bad and when you really need support, and you look around and you just see that the world has kind of gotten smaller and smaller, and the mutual friends and family people that you might actually call aren't going to be reliable anymore. The relationships have gotten a little bit eroded, and that's what the smear campaign during the relationship is designed to do, to make sure that when you need a hand, there are fewer hands available. And we've also heard this story when it comes to school teachers or people in authority, where an abuser has really smeared the victim to the teachers, to the principals of the school, members of the school council, PTA type people. So when the victim does come in, they already have these preconceived notions of who the abuse victim is. And in one instance, we heard when the abuse victim became agitated because no one was listening to her and just kind of got a little bit testy, it reinforces what the abuser was putting out there, that this person is difficult, They're not easy to work with. They're the one that is volatile, and it then becomes believed. And you don't know that's what's been going on this whole entire time when they've been going to these meetings or meeting with the teachers privately and things like that. They're doing a real big setup so you're seen as the problem. And a couple smear campaigns that we don't talk about very often or call them smear campaigns is when an abuser is telling you, the abuse victim, what other people might be saying about you. They're smearing other people to you, so that isolates you even further. So what they might be doing to you, to other people, it's the same thing is going on here. And that way you might start feeling uncomfortable around the people who are your friends, who are your family. They're trying to separate you. They're trying to isolate you. They want that isolation to occur so no one can really communicate with each other, and it keeps you locked in abuse much further. And then also a form of smearing is parental alienation in a lot of ways, because they could be smearing you to the children. And if they're smearing you to the children might have a different opinion of you, and then they can start pointing things out. The abuser says that my mom is volatile. My mom raised her voice today. Child can start to believe these things. So they can start planting these smears with the children, and essentially parental alienation, or part of it, is a smear campaign against you. And essentially scapegoating is a smear campaign in a family system. They're smearing one child and then trying to come up with proof to show that this child is the problem child, and they'll figure out any sort of way to get a rise out of that child and then point it out to the other children that, like, yes, this child is the problem. They're the real problem in our family system, and that's how they become the scapegoat. So there's a bunch of different smears that are going on, and it's a way to isolate you so no one will believe you, you won't believe others, and to keep you as far away from support as possible. So why do abusive people do this? So the first one is control. If they can shape how other people see you, they can limit how much support you get. Less support means a smaller world. A smaller world means you're easier to manage, and abusive people understand that support is dangerous to them. So a survivor with a solid support network is much harder to isolate and much harder to control. So part of that smear campaign is to cut off support in as much as possible to gain control. Sometimes for some abusive people, it's just to really cause punishment, to cause pain. You might have challenged them. You might have stopped agreeing with their version of reality. You filed for divorce. You drew a boundary. And now they want to hurt you by humiliating you, by turning people against you, by making you feel that even outside the relationship, they still have power to ruin your day and ruining your reputation. Another reason why abusive people do this is image protection. A lot of abusive people are really invested in being seen in a certain way. The good parent, the nice guy, the victim, the calm one, the one who tries to help and fix everything. If they can make you look like you're the unstable one, they get to look like they're the reasonable one. So they're doing their best here to protect their image, and they'll smear you to make themselves look like the good person, so no one will believe your version of the story. And in part of the image protection, there's also really a strategic influence. And sometimes this isn't just about family and friends. I've already mentioned teachers, but this can go to custody, divorce, school, work, church, community stuff. So a smear campaign can be aimed at anyone who has influence over outcomes, anyone who might later hear your version of events and need to decide who to believe. So when you ask yourself, like, who are they saying it to and why to that person specifically? Because when it comes to strategic influence, it's not random who they're telling. There's going to be a strategy around that, especially in the aftermath when it comes to court and custody and things like that. And another smear campaign, which we don't really discuss as a smear campaign, is a smear campaign they do about yourself. And a lot of that is the gaslighting and rewriting reality. So you start to believe the lies that they're saying to you. So even all the criticisms that are going on, or pointing out that you could be clumsy, or pointing out that you're forgetful, all these types of things that they could have set up to make you think that your memory isn't as good, that you misremembered things, all these kinds of things, putting you down, criticizing, all of that stuff is a smear campaign to you about yourself. So it starts to erode your sense of self. And so you stop believing or trusting yourself. So that gaslighting is an active smear campaign to you about you. So why does the smear campaign hurt so much or hit so hard? You're already carrying the relationship. There's a lot of confusion going on. You're in survival mode a lot of the time. You're dealing with trauma. You're dealing with parenting stress in some cases, financial stress, legal stress in other ones. You're also probably dealing with loneliness and just grief. And on top of that, someone who is already harming you is trying to rewrite who you are to other people. And that just takes the cake, and it's creating a different kind of pain. It's angering. You might feel helpless. You might feel humiliated. You might get panicked about it. Then you really might get obsessive about it because everything else is going on, but this is taking it to another level. Now the outside world starts to think these things about you, and you want to defend yourself in every single way, and you want to chase down every lie that's ever been said, to explain yourself constantly to people. It starts to create an agony inside you, the agony of feeling like the truth is just moving further and further away from you, that you're losing the narrative, and you know what happened in the relationship, but all of a sudden the outside world doesn't believe that, and that is painful to deal with. And if you already are dealing with fears around being misunderstood or being too much or being hard to believe or being hard to love, this smear campaign that's going on can just light a fuse on that and blow it up even more. So what are the things that you can actually do when these things start happening? And the first thing is that you have to start documenting. Save texts, emails, voicemails, screenshots, social media posts, school communications, custody communications, anything that shows a pattern over time. And this documentation isn't about proving yourself to the entire world. It's really showing yourself what is going on and the proof of what's going on. And if you do have to deal with professionals that you or school or court custody kind of stuff, that you have this stuff ready at your disposal. And when you're dealing with someone who really distorts reality, having things in written communication is better than verbal communication. And you try to keep it brief. You try to just keep things factual. You try to keep things grounded. Don't over explain. Don't do any emotional unloading in text or email. Don't write lots of paragraphs. Just try to be as brief as possible, deal with facts, and you're doing this for clarity and you're keeping it on record. And then be as strategic as possible about your expending of energy, because not every lie deserves a response. So you just have to start thinking, like, where does my clarity matter most? And that could be in court, that could be custody, that could be school, that could be your core support system people, not everyone in that universe, your key family people, not everyone in that family. You have to start to pick who your most important things are and what those battles will be, who matters to me most, and which ones don't. Pick your battles properly when it comes to this. So another way to combat this, which for a lot of people is the way to combat it, is consistency over explanation. So you're not going out and trying to explain things to people. You're just going to be the model of consistency and good behavior over time. And they'll notice the contrast of you still maintaining being this good, upstanding person, while the version that they are telling people doesn't actually exist. So within how you communicate, how you show up, how you parent, how you respond to things. You keep this pattern of good behavior, all these good things continuously going on. And eventually you hope, and it's not going to say this is 100%, but you hope that people realize, you know what? This other person has been lying to me the whole entire time. You really are this model of consistency. You didn't have to say anything to me. I just see it. And they have a real tangible thing to hold on to. And then also, when you're trying to pick the people who you're going to be discussing things with, it's about picking the right people or getting the right support. Not every person in your life needs to know what's going on, even if you've been smeared to that person. Not everyone is safe. And picking the right people matters. Having someone who's a trauma-informed therapist, a good DV advocate, a lawyer who understands what's going on, a support group of people who may not know you, and you're going to go into that group, just like we have at narcissistapocalypse.com, and they'll understand everything that you're going through. People that don't require you to be calm to be heard or be believed, So those are the type of people that you should be getting the support from. So for the last thing to say about these smear campaigns within the relationship, outside of the relationship, obviously when the relationship is over, some abusers are going to smear you in a myriad of different ways to try to get people onto their side, court, custody, things like that. It's really controlling the frame around you. They're doing their best to decide in advance how your truth sounds to other people, whether you'll be seen as being credible or unstable, and whether help will be available to you when you need it. And that's why survivors feel so disturbed or shattered by all of this, because it's not just that someone is lying about them, it's that someone is actively trying to take your reality away from you. So it's not just behind closed doors anymore where they're taking your reality away from you and making their reality the truth. They're now trying to do this to the public as well. And that can cause this extra level of pain in a lot of people. And for a lot of people are really affected by that. So I really do feel for everyone who's gone through a smear campaign, is in the middle of a smear campaign right now, whether it started during the early part of your relationship or after you left. I just really want to say that you're not crazy for being affected by any of this. This hurts. You're not overreacting because this is taking over your mind. A lot of times when this happens, it can really take over your mind and you can ruminate on it and fixate on it. It's just really taking over everything in your body. And you're not wrong for feeling that way. It's another form of abuse that is going on, and it hurts and it's isolating and it's controlling you and it's making you doubt yourself, and it's really shaping the world around you. And I just really want everyone to stay protected as possible. And that's also giving yourself some time during the day, if you are ruminating about it, to give you a little bit of peace, to move yourself away from it just for a tiny bit of time. Get more clarity. It's a lot of pressure to feel. I want you to protect yourself in as many ways as possible. And it's just a lot to deal with. And I'm sorry if you are going through this. And I hope you found this episode a little bit educational and helpful and validating. And if you want to be a guest on our Survivor Story episodes, just go to narcissistapocalypse.com, click on the guest form, fill it out, and press the submit button. And that is it for today's episode. And I hope you have a good night.